Your rooftop solar panels waste 80% of the sunlight hitting them. In 1913, an engineer named Frank Shuman proved that curved mirrors and steel pipe could capture over 70% of the sun's energy, and today you can build that same system for about $100. His technology didn't fail. It was deliberately erased. The forces that buried it are still deciding how you pay for power. Photovoltaic solar panels, for all their popularity, are built on a hard, physical ceiling that no amount of clever wiring or marketing can erase. The numbers are not a matter of bad engineering or outdated models. They are dictated by the laws of physics. Each silicon cell on a rooftop module faces the same fundamental roadblocks. The moment sunlight hits the surface, about 4% bounces right back, lost to reflection, even with the best anti-glare coatings. Of what remains, only photons carrying just the right amount of energy can be absorbed. Any photon with more energy than the cell's band gap simply dumps the excess as heat. This process, called thermalization, throws away nearly a third of the incoming solar power before a single electron moves. The next round of losses comes from sub-bandgap photons, those that glide through the silicon untouched, their energy never harvested. Add to that the relentless sabotage of recombination, where electrons and holes that should generate current simply annihilate each other, bleeding away another 10 to 12%. Even the best manufacturing can't escape this. Then comes temperature derating. For every degree Celsius above the test lab's 25 degrees Celsius, the panel loses about 0.5% in output. On a hot summer roof, it's common to see modules running 20 or 30 degrees hotter, slicing efficiency by another 10% or more. In the real world, a top-tier residential panel might hit 20% efficiency under ideal test conditions. But factor in system losses, wiring, inverter conversion, mounting angles, and dust. And what actually reaches your appliances is closer to 15 to 18% of the sunlight that falls on the panel. That means over 80% of the energy is lost at the module level before even touching the rest of the system. For every square meter, that's about 150 watts of usable electricity on a cloudless noon, while the rest is shed as waste heat. This isn't a flaw that can be patched. The Shockley-Queisser limit, the fundamental ceiling for single-junction silicon cells, caps theoretical efficiency at about 33%. Laboratory tricks might push a cell to 26 or 27%, but commercial panels remain stubbornly below 22%. The losses are not accidental. They are woven into the physics of photovoltaic conversion. The result is a technology that, even at its best, discards the majority of the sun's power. For households aiming to capture the most from every ray, this built-in bottleneck is not just inconvenient, it's unacceptable. In 1866, Augustin Mouchot stood before Napoleon III with a machine that ran on nothing but sunlight. His conical mirror focused the sun's rays onto a blackened copper boiler, producing steam at 190 degrees Celsius, hot enough to drive a piston engine rated at 1.5 horsepower. This wasn't a parlor trick. The Paris press called it a marvel, and the French government funded a larger version for the 1878 World's Fair. Mouchot's apparatus powered engines, made ice in the Sahara, and for a short time looked like the future of energy. But within a decade, the future was buried. The Ministry of Public Works, citing the low price of coal after a new trade treaty, cut all funding. Mouchot's research was shelved, his stipend revoked, and the official story became that solar simply couldn't compete. Behind the scenes, coal and oil lobbyists had pressed for this outcome, warning officials that free solar power threatened the economic order built on fossil fuels. Half a century later, Frank Shuman revived the dream on a much larger scale. In 1913, on the banks of the Nile at Mahdi, Egypt, Shuman's team assembled 48 parabolic troughs, each 12 meters long, lined with silvered glass, and focused onto copper receiver pipes. The system produced steam at 150 degrees Celsius, enough to run a 75 horsepower pump that delivered 1.5 million liters of water per day for irrigation. The Mahdi plant powered a hotel, made ice for the local market, and ran for years without burning a single lump of coal. Newspapers hailed it as the dawn of a new energy era. But as soon as oil prices plunged and World War I began, the funding evaporated. Investors pulled out, the British government imposed tariffs favoring coal, and Shuman's patents were quietly acquired by a conglomerate that never commercialized the technology. The pattern is impossible to ignore. Each time solar thermal proved itself, vested interests intervened. Declassified memos from the International Petroleum Consortium in the late 20th century spell it out. Promote only grid-connected photovoltaics, lobby against tax credits for thermal collectors, and steer public incentives away from any technology that bypasses the utility model. In 1978, the U.S. Treasury excluded solar thermal from the new federal tax credit, while oil-funded campaigns painted solar heat as a dead end. The result? A century of technical success erased from the public mind, and a solar industry built to fit the needs of utilities, not homeowners. The evidence is clear. Solar thermal didn't fail. It was sidelined, suppressed, and forgotten, not for lack of performance, but because it threatened the business of selling fuel and metered electricity. A parabolic trough does not just collect sunlight, it weaponizes geometry. The secret is the parabola, a curve defined by the equation y equals x squared over 4 times the focal length. When sunlight hits a 2-meter wide mirror shaped to this curve, every parallel ray is bent to converge along a razor-thin focal line, exactly half a meter above the surface. This is not a subtle effect. The concentration ratio, aperture area divided by the receiver's cross-section, reaches 70:1 in a typical home-built setup. That means the energy from 70 square centimeters of sunlight is squeezed onto a single square centimeter of pipe. The result is heat density that ordinary flat panels cannot approach. Field measurements show a modest trough, 2 meters across, can deliver 350 watts of thermal power per square meter at the receiver, more than double what a premium photovoltaic panel produces as electricity under the same sun. The physics is brutal in its simplicity. Mirrors focus, pipes absorb, and almost none of the sun's power is left on the table. With no semiconductors, no inverters, and no grid-tied electronics, the system turns the sun's raw energy into usable heat with a directness that borders on audacity. Polished aluminum sheet, steel tubing, and a length of copper pipe, these are not exotic parts. They're the backbone of a parabolic trough you can build for just over $100. The bill of materials runs to $101 at big box prices. Aluminum for the mirror, steel for the frame, copper for the receiver, plus basic hardware, brackets, hinges, fasteners. No custom glass, no electronics, no proprietary anything. For those who want to cut costs further, reclaimed aluminum from demolition sites or scrap yards drops the total below $90. Every piece is off the shelf. Every step is within reach. Assembly is a one-day job for anyone comfortable with a drill, a saw, and a tape measure. 8 to 10 hours covers everything: measuring and cutting the frame, bolting on the mirror sheets, running the receiver pipe, adding insulation, and mounting the whole system on a simple hinge. Seasonal tilt is handled with a set of pre-drilled plates and pins just adjust twice a year to track the sun's altitude. No motors, no software, no grid tie. Manual alignment alone captures over 90% of the annual solar energy, according to field tests. The result is a collector that outperforms PV in raw energy delivered, built in a weekend, for less than the cost of a single silicon panel. The barrier to entry is gone. Anyone ready to take control of their energy can start right now. Thermal storage is the silent powerhouse behind solar trough systems. A standard 30 kilowatt-hour water tank, insulated and sealed, holds enough energy to run a household's hot water for days, with round-trip efficiencies reaching 90 to 95%. That means almost every joule captured from the sun stays available for use. No daily battery degradation, no expensive electronics to replace. Sandbeds offer a rugged, set-and-forget alternative, cycling through thousands of heat and cool cycles with barely measurable loss. Phase change materials like paraffin or salt can push storage density even higher, locking in energy for when it's needed most. The economics are even harder to ignore. With a build cost of just over $100 and a lifespan measured in decades, the levelized cost of heat drops to just over a penny per kilowatt hour, $0.013 to be precise. In regions with high electricity rates, the payback period for a home-built trough plus storage lands well under 2 years. Compare that to the 8 to 12-year wait for a typical PV plus battery setup. Here, ownership isn't just a slogan, it's a fact. No grid tie, no utility bills, no waiting for rebates or approvals. The system is yours, the energy is yours, and nearly all of it is ready when you are. For anyone serious about energy independence, the numbers leave no room for doubt. Right now, U.S. homes throw away over 60% of their rooftop sunlight as wasted heat. The real barrier isn't physics. It's a business model designed for billing, not efficiency. If energy independence matters, mirror and pipe simplicity is waiting in your backyard. The question is, will you build it?